Hi everybody, it's Jeff here with Entrepreneur Essentials here at T-Werx, and I wanted to say we're glad to be back after the Small Business Festival. We took a little bit of time off to get all those videos up on our website. Certainly if you've not seen those yet, look down below and all of those are here. Make sure that you're subscribing to our site, so that's right down below me to the right. And make sure that you're on there, because every time we put up a new video, then you'll get an email letting you know that we're there. I wanted to introduce you today to my friend Chad Wright of Wright Creative. Chad is part of our SuccessWorks program here at T-Werx, which that program really works with the members of T-Werx. If you need help with a specific skill, whether it's an attorney or a branding specialist or whatever, you get the opportunity to go sit down with them for an hour on their dime and be able to really get some ideas, whatever questions you have. And then if you decide to engage them later on, they're going to give you the best price that they can as a T-Werx member. So Chad is one of the best branding specialists I know, really creative team, very high quality product that they put out. And Chad, welcome to the show today.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Tell us a little bit about how you got started in your business.
So I've been in the design, marketing, branding world since I was 14 years old. It's literally all I've done. It was my first job. And I worked almost full-time through high school. I'd get off school every day, go work till late at night, and come home. And so this is kind of the world I lived in, was design and marketing. And my mom owned 2 different marketing businesses through the years, so I was always around that kind of entrepreneurial environment. And so my parents taught me how to work hard. If nothing else, you work hard and you help people. And so I was always around that, and so I kind of knew I wanted to do that. And so through college and everything, I did design work, and I did it for a variety of different types of companies. And I started my own business in 2005. And started as a part-time business, and about 6 months later quit my full-time job and did this, and did it completely the wrong way. No savings, wife, 3 kids, 2 cars, house, everything you need, except no money. And so we started it with absolutely nothing, and really spent the first 5 years almost going out of business the entire time, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs run into, where if you just kind of dive into something and you look up 5 years later and it's not quite what you thought it would be. And so I spent all that time, struggling and trying to figure things out, and finally it clicked, and we started figuring out how to talk about ourselves and how to market ourselves, and things started rolling then. And so we've grown from just me by myself in my house to a team of 5 people now. We've got an office in Leander, and we absolutely love every day of this, of being able to help small businesses and help them figure out the challenges of storytelling and marketing and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and Chad and I were talking before we started this, and he was saying that he did this for 5 years and realized, until he made some changes, it's the old adage of, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result,
And I really did. It was very much the same things. It was from year 1 to year 5 was the exact same client base. It was the exact same processes. It was, honestly, a lot of it was just me sitting there waiting for people to discover how great I was. And I think that's so many small businesses. They think if I just open my doors, people are going to show up. And it is not the case. Nobody cared how great I was. And once I finally figured that out, I was able to go out and start bringing in business, and we started to grow. But it took that willingness to change, to let go of old clients, to find new ones, and to really figure out who we were. And once I figured out who we were, we started to really grow. But that's a hard, painful process.
And it was almost, you had to teach, I would guess you had to kind of teach yourself the same storytelling that you're teaching your clients.
Absolutely. Because the whole time I was doing design and marketing work for businesses, and they were doing great, and I was starving. And so I finally started doing the things that I knew I needed to do. And honestly, that's a constant process of reminding yourself of that, because a few years ago we scaled back our marketing again because we wanted to get better. We were growing very well and very quickly. And so we scaled back our marketing in order to try to get better and learn how to do these things better. And then as a result, I never really ramped the marketing back up. And so now we've hit some challenging times. And so I'm having to get back in that routine of marketing all the time. And so that's what I love about business. It's a never ending process. You're always learning, you're always growing. Till the day I die, I want to be learning new things. And so
but the other good part about it is you also know, okay, if I just go back to doing these things that I know work,
exactly right,
then the business will come back.
It's fundamental, and sometimes it takes those really tough times to pop up that force you to grow.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep telling people this is our most challenging year we've ever faced. I'm having so much fun right now. Like, I get out of bed every morning and I cannot wait to get to work. And a lot of it is just the challenge of it, of having a hill to climb. Last year was our best year ever, and honestly I was a little bored at times because things were just clicking and business was flowing in. And so I love years like this.
There's no creative problem solving at all at that
Exactly.
point.
There's really not. And so I love putting out fires and dealing with that. And so for me, that's why I've absolutely loved this year, because I learn new things. And I also love about business that, like, every 6 months you learn something new that's fundamental, and you look at the thing and go, how did we survive this long without that? Like, I don't know how we made it. And so that's what I like about it, is no matter how much you know, there's always more to figure out. And it's honestly why I get out of bed every day.
And the world keeps changing. I mean, with technology
absolutely.
and everything else, I mean, if you don't stay up on it, you're going to be in trouble. So.
Absolutely.
Well, tell me a little bit about what, as you're working with new clients, and they're building a brand and a story, what's the process that you follow?
So I actually just spoke with a new business today, and we were kind of having this exact conversation. You really look at it from a foundational perspective, and you've got to be able to tell your own story. So you need to have kind of that foundational base of who are we going after, what's the story, like what do we bring to the table that's unique? Most of us sell things that can be commoditized, and so you've got to have a unique story to add to that to convince people to do business with you. And so for a lot of them, it's just having that foundation and understanding who they are. So if you can communicate who you are very simply, that's incredibly helpful, because then when you're going out calling, you've got to make sure that you're able to convey that really well. We try to equip them with a base of things. So they need to have a story to be able to tell about why they're even doing this. Why should I do business with you? Why is your product better than anybody else's? We also like to equip them with a base of good business cards, good brochures, like the fundamental old school things that say, I've invested in this and I'm going to be here for a long time.
And it looks good.
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing like putting a nice business card in somebody's hand. I know we're in the digital age, but I've got really nice cards. I don't mind saying that. And every time I put one in somebody's hands, they stop and they look at it. And I've had people tell me that they will get my card and they don't really need me at that moment. But it's so nice, they feel bad throwing it away, they stick it on their desk, and they'll call me 2 years later. And that's the power of something.
And at the most, you probably paid 3 cents for that, 4 cents.
More like 70, but still.
Okay.
That's a good 70 cents.
That's money well spent.
I will literally hand them to anybody that will stand still long enough. I don't care what they cost, because I know the power of that lasting story that we're telling.
Sure.
And so it shows the investment. But even if it is, like, we do offer cards that are 3-4 cents a piece, they're nice cards, and that says a lot about the company. So we want people to have that base of the things they need to be equipped to go talk to people. Once you have that and you've got your basic story, then that goes on your website, then that goes in all your social media, that goes in your marketing. So the story actually goes out in all your different forms of things you're doing. But you've got to have that to start with.
That's awesome.
And a lot of times it's even drilling down into what you offer. Like, what do you really sell? If you're a florist, you would say flowers. A florist doesn't sell flowers. They sell the idea that somebody loves you. That's powerful. That's something that you can market. And so I think for a lot of businesses, it's getting past the product or whatever it is and drilling down into really the core of what they're doing.
And it's that Simon Sinek thing, getting to the why.
Exactly.
Why do you do it? Not how do you do it or what you do. It's why you do it.
That's absolutely it.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So what are some new, you're having fun this year, really being able to really refocus the business. What are some new things that you find that you're working on?
One of the most interesting things we've been doing this year is we started shooting a video. We'd shoot a daily video. It's 60 seconds long, so it's very easily digestible. We put it out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, the works.
Nice.
And it's essentially a kind of behind the scenes look at our business. So here's what we face today. Here's what that kind of generated in me and made me think about. Hopefully it's helpful for other people.
Nice.
And that's been incredibly interesting, and not really from I don't know that we're selling more printing because of it, but it's showing people what we go through, and it's helping other business owners. Like, as a business owner, all my free time is spent consuming content from other business owners. I am fascinated by the special kind of crazy that we are as entrepreneurs. And so I love reading about other success stories, and I love hearing about their challenges. And so we decided to do that.
Just do it in a video format.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's show small business owners what we're dealing with. And what's funny is I'll talk to people that are just starting, and they'll say, wow, that whatever it was you talked about, that really helped. And then I'll talk to people that have been in business 20 years longer than I have. And they'll say, I've known that for years, but I didn't really think about it. And the way you put it actually meant something to me. And so for us, that's been really a lot of fun, because we're able to give back and we're able to help out other business owners a lot. And for us, we've kind of got into a rhythm. We get out every day and we shoot it, and it's 60 seconds, and we just we don't script it. It's just on the fly, see what happens. And
it's those interesting ones like that get a lot of engagement.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, on social media. And I mean, that's really what you're out there for, is to engage. You're not out there to sell on social media. It's engaging.
You're really not. When I was just talking about this today with a guy, when you're scrolling through Facebook and you see an ad pop up and it has nothing to do with you, like it's just buy this thing, it really pisses you off a little bit, because it's interrupting what you actually want to look at. But when you put something out there that's just helpful, it's just, I'm giving this to you to help, that's where it gets really interesting. And that's where finding things to talk about within your business and around your business, that's interesting to me. And for you, I think probably here it's easy. You've got all these businesses and all these stories floating around in the success.
That's why we do the show. Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it's being able to tell the stories of these businesses. What fascinates me, and one of the reasons I asked the first question of how did you get here, is that's the fascinating part. And there's a common thread amongst all entrepreneurs that you spend years and years doing something and you realize, God, I just don't enjoy it. Well, it's just because I don't enjoy working for somebody else.
Yes.
I'm not really employable, and I have to pretty much do it myself.
Yeah, I think I would probably make the worst employee on the planet at this point. And that's what's interesting is, I think that's how you know if you're going to be an entrepreneur. Not necessarily if you're going to be a good one, but if you know if you should do it. Because everywhere I worked before this, I would look around and I would see things, systems, people, whatever it was that was broken, and I wanted to fix it. And it wasn't my role to fix it, so of course nobody listened to me. And quite frankly, I was in my early 20s at the time. They shouldn't have listened to me. But that's just who I am, and that's who all entrepreneurs are. You can't walk into a business, see something wrong, and not instantly want to fix it.
Yeah, I worked for one company where I had a job where it was my job to go fix things or start new things, which was the ultimate job for me. And then all of a sudden, when I switched out of that role, I was miserable for the next 10 years of my life, and I realized why. You were letting me be an entrepreneur before. Now you're making me be an employee.
Absolutely, And I think so many people start businesses not necessarily because they have that entrepreneurial spirit, but just because they're tired of the situation they're in. Which I think is probably part of why there's such a huge failure rate in businesses. Because if 70 to 90% fail in the first 10 years, that means probably 70 to 90% shouldn't have started a business. But that 10 to 30%, those need to be the crazy people. Those need to be those of us who can't do anything else. Like, you have to do it.
I cannot do anything else now at this point. I could not imagine.
And it's usually an energy that exhausts other people. So like my feet hit the floor at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm ready to rock and roll from that second until I go back to bed. It drives my team crazy. It drives my wife crazy, my entire family. They think I'm nuts. And so there's something about that energy that just drives you.
Well, but also knowing you control your future is a big difference. So.
Well, and that's the other thing about entrepreneurial people is they're never 9 to 5 people. Every job I've ever worked, I worked late. Spent a lot of hours, and finally at one point I was like, if I'm going to put in this many hours, why not do it for myself and my family rather than other people?
Well, that's what I've always said. The definition of an entrepreneur is somebody that's willing to work 80 hours a week for themselves to avoid working 40 hours for somebody else.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly right.
So let's do the Fast Five.
Sure.
So first question, if you woke up tomorrow morning, you had your laptop computer, $500 in your pocket, your business is gone, you still have all the knowledge you have today, you have food and shelter, what would you do first?
I would secretly celebrate first. Probably not so secretly, because something about starting over at the bottom, like, that's exciting. That's the reason after this business is a success, I'll start another one. And if I could start over with the knowledge I have now, if I could go back to being 25 years old and know what I know now and not waste the first 5 years of my business, there's no telling where we'd be. I would love to start over like that. And we started it with nothing. So I'd be up $500 higher than I was when I started before.
But I'm ahead of the game.
I would do the same thing. And for me, the big difference is the realization. Before, my goal was just, I want to provide for my family. At the time I started, it was literally, can I do something and make $70,000 a year? That was as high as my mountain was. And it's not a very high mountain.
Not really.
Not at all. And now I understand it's about people. Once that clicked, and everything I do now is about helping other people. It has literally nothing to do with me and my family. That's when things changed. And if I could start a business at that level, I could take that $500 a long way. I would absolutely love to do that. I might do that someday. Just sell everything. Just sell everything. I'm starting over with $500.
I'm just going to do it, and that's my budget that I'm working with in my bank account. So tell me a little bit about your biggest entrepreneurial challenge ever.
My biggest challenge ever, I think for so far, it has been the transition from a one-person company to a multi-person team.
Okay.
That has been huge for me because it started, this company for a long time was, I know how to design, I know the printing business, I know how to do copywriting, I can do photography, I can do video. It was all these things around communication. I know how to do those things and then I can go sell it. So it was a one-man band, just do everything. Now I have to have systems, I have to hire the right people, and my job is no longer doing all the work. My job is teaching and directing others to do the work. That's been a huge transition for me. And honestly, it's still, I'm only 4 years into that process. And that has been a difficult transition, to go from just having to know how to do the work to having to know how to teach it. And that's tough to do. Because some things, even to this day, I mean, I'm very self-aware of my issues. And so I'm the creative director of my company. So every piece of creative we do goes through my hands. There's times when we'll run into a wall and I don't know how to tell them how to fix it. But I know if I sit down with it for 20 minutes, I'll figure it out. I've got to be able to get over that. And so it's a lot of things like that, a transition.
You've got to encourage them to be able to problem solve. They can't always fall back on you.
Yes, that's absolutely it. And so for me, that has been a huge shift. My day-to-day job today is so different than it was 5 years ago, before I started that part. And so for me, that's the biggest challenge.
I mean, it's funny because we've had 19 jobs created out of this space this year, and we're not talking burger flippers. And there's nothing wrong with burger flippers. I'm just saying these are high quality jobs, and I've celebrated the most with those business owners that went from working at home to working here to actually hiring their first person. Because that's the big one. That first step, hiring that first person. After that, it gets easier, and you build systems. And
it might get easier for other people. It was not easy for me. Like, it's still, every hire is terrifying to me because we're a little weird in that I don't believe in borrowing money, and so literally it's cash in the bank. And so every time I've ever hired anybody, it's, I kind of think we can afford this, but I really don't know for sure. So let's try it and see. And so hiring has always been scary. And so maybe there's a point where it stops being scary. I don't know. But for me, it was funny. That first hire was terrifying. I guess it does get a little easier. First hire was terrifying. 3 months later, I had 3 people. And so that is, and the first hire was, I'm going to do it a year. Let's see how it goes. And 3 months later, I had 3. So I guess it does get easier, but it's no less scary.
No, it's never scary. It's never less scary because you still, now I have to write another paycheck that I wasn't counting on, and can I generate enough business extra with that one person on there? So I think it's also that point where you start to get, okay, can I release enough to that person?
That's a big challenge,
and
well,
that's
especially if the business has been you. If you're a one-person business and everyone that's hired you because of you, that's a hard transition to make, letting go of things. And so much of my time now is spent planning for the future and figuring out how to pull myself out of the business. Because the more I'm involved in day-to-day in our business, the slower we're going to grow and the less we're going to do. And so the more I can pull myself out, hire the right people, train them, put them in place, the better we're going to be in the future. But that's not easy to realize that you're the bottleneck in your entire business. You're everything that's wrong with it.
When you look around and everything is the choke point is you. If you can just remove that choke point,
that's exactly it.
So is there a book that you would recommend to a new business owner or to an entrepreneur?
You know what's interesting is I just listened to the book by 2 books I just listened to. Those would be the top of my mind. One was by Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks. And I've read the one about how he built Starbucks. This one was about how Starbucks started to fail and he had to come back as CEO. Incredibly interesting. And what I like is finding stories like that of multi-billion-dollar companies, the things they had to navigate. The funny part about it is the same things we navigate every day.
Yeah.
It's all the same. It's just a different scale. And so I love reading stories like that and pulling things out from my business going, oh yeah, I need to do that better. And so I also just finished the book. I actually don't read a lot. I listen to a ton of audiobooks. And I just listened to one by Phil Knight, the guy who started Nike.
Nike, yeah.
Incredibly interesting story. And so many of those large businesses are just like ours. You're failing for so long until you're not. And eventually they hit that point where it's kind of a tipping point where suddenly they're successful. But it's that perseverance. It's fighting through every single thing.
And I think that's, so many businesses fail in the first 5 years because people just give up.
Absolutely.
They do not have the tenacity to get past those. They just give up and say it's too hard, or I didn't have the right idea. Well, okay, then change the idea. Stop sticking with that one idea.
That's the funny thing is most people that know me wouldn't necessarily say I'm an optimist because I think I probably gripe too much. I'm a little cranky for my age. But I think if you're a business owner, you have to be an optimist because you see a challenge and you don't necessarily know the answer, but you know it exists and you're willing to invest the time to figure it out. To me, that's the definition of optimism versus looking at that challenge and finding reasons to give up. And I think that's why so many businesses fail because they don't have that wiring to look at a challenge and go, all right, let's take this on. They look at it and go, there's another challenge, there's another problem, I give up. And that's such an issue with business owners.
And like I said, I think that's what causes a lot of people to fail is just they just give up.
That's what I love about what you are doing here at T-Werx because then you've got people around you to support you. You've got the ability to look to others and say, I'm facing this, I don't know if I can do it. And they go, yeah, you can do it. And they can walk you through how they've done it.
Well, and it's a group of business owners. One of our members said that one time, and he was one of my hardest cases to get in here. Because he's like, I don't need this, I work from home, no big deal. And he came to me almost a month or two after he got here. And he's like, thank you for forcing me to basically join. Because he's like, this is the first time in my entire business career, he's 15 years in his business, that I've been around other business owners and realized that we all have these same challenges. And I can go and ask people or just have a conversation and realize, hey, let's just think this out. And it's other business owners thinking that out with you.
That is so vital. And there's something about the humility of being willing to go before others and say, I can't figure this out. And I'm 12 years into business and I've dealt with hundreds of businesses in my time. There are still things I can't figure out. And when I can't, I call business owners who are ahead of me and I take them to lunch. And I value those lunches so much because I learn so much from them. I just want to ask questions and listen. And they've always got wisdom. And so I love that environment and that willingness to feed into others and to really learn from other people.
I heard a really good explanation of this one time from somebody. He said, you need to spend a third of your time with people who are behind you in your business because that helps your ego to know that you're helping someone. You need to spend a third of your time with your peers because they're the people who are going through the same things as you, and you need to spend a third of your time with those that are where you want to be.
Oh, absolutely.
So that it pushes you to get to that next level. And I've tried to do that as much as possible in my career, and I think it works very well. But I think it's not holding yourself up in your house and hoping that something's going to happen. You've got to get out there.
That's what people won't tell you before you start a business is how incredibly lonely it is.
Oh God, yes.
Like it is so lonely. Even if you're working with a team of people, they don't understand. They will not get it. And so having a network of people that you can talk to that will actually get you. Like we were just talking before this about the very special kind of crazy business owners are.
Oh God,
And I can tell my ideas to people that are not entrepreneurial. They don't have that spirit in them. And they look at it and go, you're insane. Like, why would you try that? That makes no sense. I know I can do it. I know I was built for this, but they can't see it. So you need people around you that can see it the same way. Not necessarily to let's all jump off the cliff together. But you need people that can encourage you and say, no, you're going to make it. Let's figure this out. And that has been one of the biggest things for my growth and really for.
Or somebody might have, one of the challenges you're having, somebody might have already been through that
Oh, absolutely.
And here's what we did,
Yeah, it's
and
huge. You've got to have people around you who see things the same way you do. You do need challenging voices around
Sure.
you, but you need those people who see things just that special way that entrepreneurs do that can help guide you through that process.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's just somebody who's been there just calling you and saying it's going to be okay. When you first have kids, it's like that when you're looking around going, I'm not going to survive this. And it's so good to hear from somebody that's in their 60s.
I've birthed an idiot. What's wrong? How am I fixing this?
That doesn't really hit till they become teenagers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then you realize they're an idiot.
Yeah.
Is there a tool, like an Evernote or something along those lines that you would recommend for a business owner?
It depends on what you do. We do a lot of project management, so we use a tool called Basecamp for that.
Yep.
We use HighRise for our CRM. It's a CRM tool that allows us to basically capture every email, every phone call.
Nice.
Those kind of things are super important for staying
And that
organized.
it's an automated way of doing that? You don't have to manually?
Well, every email I get, I forward it. It shows up in there. It files it under the person's name. And I would say for a lot of people, I think business owners, we tend to get tool obsessed. Like we get so obsessed with that new thing that's going to take it to the next level, that if I just get this system, I'm going to be great. And it turns out if you plug in your flaws into that system, it's really not much better than your own system. So I use those, but for so many new businesses, it's just doing something consistently. Make sure you've got systems in place for accounting. Make sure you've got systems in place for communication. Like really understand that you're going to have those systems, but if you're not willing to put in the work, it doesn't matter.
Even if it's a spreadsheet.
Even if it's a spreadsheet.
It's a system.
Yes.
So, having that and doing it on a spreadsheet, it's still better than just kind of winging it.
Doing the basics. I mean, that's such a big thing. Whatever systems you use, make sure you're doing the basics. I can't tell you how many times I've almost failed because I didn't keep up with my numbers, or other businesses I deal with that how are you doing invoicing? Oh, you're creating it in Microsoft Word. That's probably not the best way.
No, not so much, Maybe you want to do it somewhere where it tracks it.
Absolutely.
So, Chad, how do they get a hold of you?
You can visit our website. It's wrightcreative.group. That's WRIGHT. You can email me. It's chad@wrightcreative.group. If you've got any kind of questions about business, whether it's marketing or just business in general, we're more than happy to have conversations and help people. Our daily videos are actually, I think, probably pretty helpful for people. You can find those at facebook.com/ChadWrightDaily60. And those are, we just do 60 seconds a day. It's fast, it's easy to digest, and hopefully helpful. You can learn from my mistakes. So that's the goal of them, is people can avoid the potholes that I tend to just jump headfirst into.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic. Thank you for this conversation
Absolutely.
today.
I appreciate
it was fantastic. I knew it would be good. So thank you very much for spending the time. Once again, folks, if you want to get a hold of Chad, I would highly recommend taking him out, getting him a cup of coffee, and picking his brain, because
I do like coffee.
It does like coffee, and if you buy it for him, he likes it even better. But you can really pick his brain, and it will be the best hour you'll spend drinking a cup of coffee. Remember, down below here, subscribe to the channel. Also, if you go onto our website at www.T-Werx.com, you can actually see the show notes to this page. It'll have links to Chad's website. It'll have the links to his Facebook and everything else in there. Also, the books that he had talked about, there'll be links on there as well, so that you can get all that information. Thanks again. Look forward to seeing you next week, and have a great day.